Welcome to the Hidden Heroes Talk Show. My name is Ariel, and today we have with us Eduardo Gomez. He is an author originally from Rochester, New York, as well as serving in the U.S. Air Force. So thank you for what you do, and thank you for being with us here today.
Hey, Aria, I appreciate it. As far as my background here goes, like you just alluded to moments ago, I am from Rochester, originally from Rochester, New York, and currently I've been serving now in the United States Air Force for about 9.5 years. I've actually done to date 2 combat tours to Afghanistan, serving different capacities, different roles out there to support our missions out there. Over time, things in life happen to us and kind of shapes those events shape us and would mold us. And I decided to kind of start writing back in 2000. I would say it was about 2009, 2010. But prior to that, I've been wanting to write for a while, just could never think of what it was I really wanted to write about. Just some further background here. I was married at one point, and then after my second combat tour to Afghanistan, I ended up going through a divorce. So this was back in 2012, and that kind of started the process. Really started the process going.
That's
Specific.
awesome. You want to keep going?
No, specifically. So what ended up starting was, essentially going through divorce. It's a real hard time in anybody's life. One of the worst things anybody can experience. So I kind of decided to write my feelings on paper, but I never saw it as it was going to culminate into something further down the road. So long story short, with my first book called The Journey to Purpose, which I actually have with me right here.
Awesome.
So the journey to purpose was my way of seeing life in a different way. So we go through the obstacles, we go through the hardships, but at the end of the day, we still need to move on with our lives. We still need to find the sense of purpose, and sometimes that sense of purpose comes through a new self-identity, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. So the book is called The Journey to Purpose. Is it geared towards teenagers, youths, adults? What's the demographic for the book?
I would definitely say, because I do go through somewhat of a biographical towards the end, and I say some explicit words, because essentially I want the reader to understand this is how I felt at the moment. And essentially I want to be very transparent with my feelings. So there is some choice language in there, but it's to get them to understand the first part of the book, because the first part of the book is called The Journey to Purpose. And that's the part that I really want the reader to take away. However, what I've noticed with some of these, I guess what they would call self-help books, they don't explain the reader's thought process in many capacities other than, this is what their recommendations are, their advice was. So I wanted the reader to understand where I was coming from in developing the first part of the book.
That's awesome.
So as far as an audience goes, I would definitely recommend more your 18, 19. Realistically, I think more people in their mid-20s, I would say, and beyond.
Perfect. And can you hold it up again? It looks like an easy read. It's not too thick?
No, it's definitely not. It's 155 pages. It's broken up into 4 different sections. Actually, section 2 is my poetry that I put in there, and that's just to give the reader, from my poetic standpoint, just kind of my journey through life in that capacity. And then I go into more, the last two parts of it are more of my biographical, but it also talks about how I found a new self-identity. And I did that through several different activities or things that I've done over the last couple years. This book encompasses the last 2 years of my life, from 2012 I would say until the spring of 2014.
Gotcha. And how long did it take you to write the book?
So this specific book took me about 2 years to write, and because this was being my first book, there was like no rule book for me to write, and I tell you what, after going through my first book, my second book came out so much easier, so much more smoother in the process. But between the editing, the rewrites, the having other people read it, and then also getting out of my comfort zone as far as being open with people. That was, I would say, that was the hardest thing for me to get past was, oh my gosh, I'm exposing myself.
Yeah, absolutely. I published a book this summer myself, which is right here. So I understand the process, and my hat is off to you. Do you have any habits that you created for writing? Like you every single morning or every evening? Did you have a writing habit that you did?
You know, that's a good question because, you know, being active duty military, the first question, you know, and having been involved in so many different things, because the book is just one thing. I'm also a martial artist. I was also a salsa dancer. I did some, you know, some big performances out in LA and here in the Denver area. So the big question I got from a lot of people were, where did you find the time to write a book? And really, you know, it comes in bits and pieces, you know, like 5 minutes here, 10 minutes here, 20 minutes there. You know, I would be at the gym just in the sauna, and then a thought would come, and then I would quickly jot it down on my phone. So it was pretty much dedicated time in bits and pieces over time.
I love it. I'm actually very curious to read the synopsis or the back. Would you mind reading to that to us?
Yeah, certainly. So, in The Journey to Purpose, Eduardo Gomez discusses how life sometimes throws a wrench in our planning. Nevertheless, life remains as a precious gift and a journey worth living. Hope always exists in the midst of despair if we choose to find it. There are lessons to be learned and victories to attain. Never give up and pursue the journey to your purpose.
I love it. I absolutely love it. Did you have a inspiration or a mentor or someone that you or a book that you read that you were kind of that motivated you to write this?
No, it was just, you know, I would say for me, it was just something I felt deep down I needed to do. I felt that I needed to share what I felt I had to contribute to the world. And the biggest thing that came, because I also had a review done for my book, and the biggest thing that stuck out in my review was the time factor that I talk about in there, and that we only have a limited amount of time to accomplish what we feel is our purpose. And so for me, this is just it was an internal driving factor, and I actually talk about that in there that made me want to do this.
That's awesome. Did you self-publish or go through a publishing company?
No, I went to America Star Books, so with them, I had to do a lot of the legwork on my own. So they just published the book. They don't go through a lot of the editing processes or anything like that. So I had to do a lot of legwork on my own. So it was a big learning curve, but a learning curve that was definitely, I learned a lot of lessons, especially going into my next two books. Now one is currently in publishing and one is currently going through review right now.
Awesome. And where is your first book available?
You can get it through Amazon or Barnes and Nobles or wherever books are sold. So online it's just type it in, The Journey to Purpose by Eduardo Gomez, and it should pop up.
And how much do you sell it for?
It comes in for $16.95, but if you get it through the ebook version, it's $3.99.
Nice. And what are the names of the two next books you're working on, if you don't mind sharing them?
Well, I'll share this fun one. The one that's going through publishing right now, I'm actually working on getting its illustrations done. It's my children's book, and it's called Dancing with Daddy.
Oh. What was the inspiration behind that one?
The inspiration behind that one was my 1.5-year-old little daughter. So it's loosely based on a true event. In the book, the main character, or the daughter, his name is Amy. And I write her from the perspective that she can actually talk. So finding in the mind of a 1.5-year-old child and how she perceives her father. So the way the storyline goes is that the father, who remains nameless in the story, because to Amy, that's her daddy. There is no other name for him. So they go off. He is about to do a salsa performance, and it brings this Latin flavor very early on because it has that initially. Amy self-identifies with the fact that her father is Puerto Rican, but she also recognizes that he also has a Cuban heritage. And then also she says that she's listening to music in the car called salsa. So already there's a Latin flavor, a Latin identity in there, which, in a lot of children's book I haven't seen that kind of thing. So I kind of wanted to roll with that. So Amy finally gets to the location where her father is about to do his performance with his dance partner. But Amy wants to join her father, and she gets sad when she's held back from climbing the stage. But then at the end of it, towards the end of the story, the father, after he's done with his performance, he immediately goes to his daughter and asks her for a dance. And the daughter can never say no to her father. So the story ends with the father and the daughter dancing as the sun goes down from the daughter's perspective.
Oh, that's awesome. That's adorable. And you're going to go through the same publishing company?
Yes, I am.
That's awesome. That's really cool. I have a 4-year-old daughter. She'll be 5 in a couple weeks, so that's awesome.
Yeah.
I have a couple questions. One, you mentioned positive addictions and an email correspondence we have. Do you want to touch on that and maybe share what some of those are for you?
Yeah, so I kind of want to, when we hear addictions, there's always a negative connotation to it.
Right.
And so in my book, I kind of want to dispel what an addiction truly is. And sometimes we go through situations in life that cause us to get addicted to something. And I think it's safe to say that when we go through extreme hurts, pains, or something where we want to numb the pain and forget about our problems, we gravitate to something. However, most of the time we think, drugs, alcohol. For guys, it can be going to the strip club, or sex, or whatever the case is. Essentially, we gravitate to something to hold on to. But it doesn't always have to be on the negative side of the spectrum. For me, my addiction at the time when I went through my hardships, it was salsa dancing. I was salsa dancing I started out 20 hours a week. And that was just to numb the pains that I was going through. But that was a healthy addiction, and what it did was, being addicted to something, what we would consider a healthy addiction, by the time you come out of that addiction, you not only become a stronger person, but you didn't destroy yourself with drugs, alcohol, crazy spending, nothing like that. So you come out essentially a stronger individual.
Very true. I'm always saying everyone needs an outlet. Everyone needs somewhere to vent or somewhere to express yourself. For me, it's the gym. I absolutely love yoga and lifting weights and working out. But you're right, it's very important to find those positive addictions, because a lot of times we'll just turn to the negative ones.
Right.
I love it. Do you have any book tours scheduled or planned or in the works coming up?
I would hope to have them sometime next year. Right now, just work is keeping me really busy, and then also being a daddy is also keeping me on my toes as well. So I'm trying to find the block of time to do that. I also have responsibilities to my students, because I'm also a martial artist. I'm a first-degree black belt in combat hapkido, and then I'm also a Gracie Jiu-Jitsu student right now. So I have quite a bit of things on the docket going on, but definitely next year I hope to start to push that once my next 2 books are out.
Good for you. That's awesome. Let's talk about, you mentioned time is limited for our purpose. Do you want to talk about that for a second?
Yeah, for sure. So, I always grew up being told, we have our whole lives ahead of us. And I would say that's true, but at the same time, it's kind of misleading a little bit, because our lives are only as long as we're here. So realistically, we don't know what can happen tomorrow. And, being, just everyday life, I mean, how many, accidents do you hear about? Or you're walking down the street and someone gets hit by a car. Or even take, Iraq and Afghanistan and all the casualties we've taken there. I'm sure a lot of those 18, 19, 20-year-olds didn't think that they would not only be serving our country, but I'm pretty sure they didn't expect that they would be moving on to the next life at such an early age. So that's why I think life is such a gift, number one. But number two is, if you have something in your heart to give out to the world, it doesn't make sense to think that you have, the next 20 years to get that up, because you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. You can come down with cancer, you can come down with some crazy disease, and your life is over. So that's why it's always, you will never go wrong if you live life to the fullest every single day, and you tell your loved ones how much you love them, or you start that book, or you start that dream, because there's no better time than the present.
Absolutely. A lot of times I hear that people don't know what their purpose is. What advice would you give to those who are trying to find it or seeking what their purpose
You know,
is for them?
the journey to purpose, I actually talk about that, and I think it'd be a fair assessment to say to start out with what you are passionate about. I think that would be the first catalyst to finding what it is that you would find purpose in. So, and everybody's passions are all different, and I think if you're passionate about something, that's something that could be brought forth towards humanity in a positive way. And no one person was created the same.
Very true. I always say put your hands into everything. If you don't know what it is you want, start asking yourself, what makes my heart beat a little bit faster? Or what do I get excited about? And then for me, I didn't know what mine was, and so I made it a goal to, for a month, I was going to say yes to every opportunity, whether it was, do you want to go see this play with me? Do you want to go volunteer at this shelter? Whatever it was, within reason, I just tried to say yes to everything, to put my hands into everything, to kind of see what I enjoyed or what I didn't enjoy, and that kind of helps point you into things. But a lot of times we're afraid to even ask that question, and I always tell people, slow down and talk to yourself. Ask yourself, what does Ariel want to do? What makes me happy? What do I enjoy? Just keep asking yourself and putting it out into the universe to bring you questions, to bring you answers.
Oh, absolutely. I was always told by a good friend of mine that lives back in the East Coast that one of the things that she always admired about me is that I never limited myself, and I never was afraid to try anything once. That's something I would also, would definitely recommend, is never be afraid to try something. Even if you don't think you're going to like it, you may be surprised. And then also, just to expound on your opportunity comment, is that, sometimes, yes, opportunity does come knocking on our doorstep, but sometimes we have to create that opportunity, and we have to create those doorways into the things that we want to do. We have to be proactive with our lives. And if we don't take that initiative, we're going to continue to be in the same circle over and over and over.
For sure. That's a beautiful quote too, talking about build the door. If you don't see a door there, build it, create it. For sure. I know for me, I kept getting closed doors into what I wanted to do, and so I was trying to volunteer with suicide or depression work, and I kept getting, no, we already have facilitators, no, we don't need you. I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to host my own group, and now I host several support groups for suicide, depression, and self-injury. And I have people asking me how can they volunteer. So I'm all about that. I could not agree with you more about creating your opportunity. Go build it. If you're passionate about something, the universe seems to kind of put those steps, the blocks into the next place for you to make it happen if you're passionate about something. Someone might call you out of the blue talking about, hey, I need help with this, or you just start finding more open doors when you're passionate about something. And it gives you a sense of fulfillment. It gives you excitement to get up and start your day. We don't want to just merely go through life. It would be better if we were excited and had a purpose and a goal all the time.
No, for sure. And just to expound on your group comment, so it's interesting that you brought that up, because it could lead into my next point here, especially talking about my third book. My third book is called Going the Distance, and it's a book on child custody. I actually went through my nasty child custody battle this past year that went for 1 year. So I started back in January of this year, and it just concluded on 10 December. So I'm really excited about that. So I decided, I noticed that there are a lot of like divorce survival guides, and I didn't want this to be another divorce survival guide. And what I wanted to bring to the forefront was the reality of what a child custody case could look like if left to go out of hand, because I had a pretty pretty rough one where I did everything I could to fight for my little one. Um, but that being said, when I say fight for my little one, it wasn't about, you know, taking revenge on the mom or anything like that, because all I fought for was for joint custody. I didn't, you know, because at the end of the day, regardless of what happened between the mother and I, my daughter deserves two loving parents. And so now in a post court world, her and I are getting along a lot better now than the horrendous year that we've had. But what it also sparked in me was because as a father, I was struggling to find good resources that would tell me the ins and outs of a family law case involving children. And so what I decided to do so that people would not take the court system for granted, or think that by walking in a courtroom you can say whatever you want or do whatever you want and get away with it. I wanted to dispel some of those things, and I wanted to talk about the evolution of the family court system, specifically that we live in a day and age where more states are passing legislation for 50-50 parental setup, or a lot of states are going with the best interest of the child standard. So it's not like it was, you know, maybe 20, 30 years ago where dads just get every other weekend and moms get sole custody. The paradigm is definitely shifting. And so so the intent of the book is not only to encourage fathers to fight for their rights if they need to go see, if they want to be an active part of their children's lives, but also, more importantly, is to talk about how parents that are going through the similar situation that I've gone through, that they need to get along for the sake of the children. They can divorce each other, they can separate from each other, but the ones that cannot separate or divorce from are the children, and we need to be civil for them.
I love it. I have mad respect for you. Like I said, I have a 5-year-old daughter, and her father and I are not together. So we've had our fair share too. And I'm always saying, it's not about us. It's about the child. What's best for our daughter. And at the end of the day, it's important for her to know that both parents love her, no matter what, regardless of anything else happening. She's loved and appreciated. That's awesome. So it sounds like you got your hands full.
Yeah, so next year, as part of, and so this is what will determine regarding my book tours, if depending where I rack and stack this. But next year, I would like to start a group where I can help parents with providing them with good, solid advice and recommendations based on the things that I've talked about in my book. And even currently, my attorney is actually reviewing my book at no cost, thank God. No cost to me there. But essentially, you know, I think parents really need to hear the reality of what it is before spending that crazy amount of money. I mean, you can easily spend over $60,000 and to only get the results that you would have gotten anyways had you just worked it out, which is ironic. So I would definitely say that family court definitely can bring out the worst in people. So I hope to bring logic and help individuals make a better decision for themselves and their family.
That's awesome. Well, Eduardo Gomez, our time is zooming by. Is there a quote that you would like to share with us, or an affirmation or a saying that you live your life by?
So I live my life by a couple different things. So, you know, one of them kind of sounds pretty blunt, but I think it's definitely fitting. Is that life will not cater to you or your feelings. So essentially, get over it and move on and live your life. So it sounds kind of harsh, and I actually do say that in my book, but it's true. And sometimes, and actually, my brother actually read that quote one time, and he said he got offended. But here's the thing: we only have one life. I mean, that's the honest truth. We only have one life to live, and life is not going to sit there and stop. And while we're moping and feeling sorry for ourselves, the world is still going. The world is still spinning. People are still, you know, out there, and so we need to be mindful of that, and we need to respect that. We need to respect that life doesn't stop. Also, the nicer, kinder side is, I would say, dream, live, and persevere. So dream your dreams, live your life, and then persevere through all the hardships and the obstacles. Because truth be told, life is going to be full of twists, turns, and obstacles, and it's up to us how we choose to adapt to those situations and how we choose to overcome.
I absolutely love them both. I love them. The first one, life does not cater to us. So many times we think, I'm a good person and life should be easy, good things should be happening to me, and a lot of times we're waiting for life to be handed to us on this golden platter. But I'm always telling people, I'm always saying, you have to go after what you want. Create it, make it happen. There is nobody that's going to stand there with a golden platter and be like, here's your dreams. It happened to you. And like you said, life keeps happening. It keeps going. You just have to decide, are you going to take the bull by the horns, or are you going to let life control you? I absolutely love it. Was there anything else you wanted to bring up before our time is out?
I think that pretty much sums up a good portion of everything I would have stated. So unless you have any specific questions for me, that's really what I wanted to highlight in this interview is this whole sense of life purpose. And right now, just personally for me, just as a summary, my journey doesn't stop in book writing. So I think book writing for me was just one avenue for something bigger. And that's the other thing. I know there's much more out there for me. I just don't know what it is right now. But I just have to live life each day at a time and take my opportunities as they come and never take a single day for granted.
For sure. And the more you do that, the more your path will be made clear. I love it.
Absolutely.
Well, you truly are a hidden hero, so thank you for being on our show. Everybody, again, his book is called Journey to Purpose, and the one coming out soon is Dancing with Daddy, the children's story. His first book is on Amazon or in bookstores, so be sure to check it out. And again, his name was Eduardo Gomez, and the book was Journey to Purpose. So thank you for being with us. Our show is called Hidden Heroes. Everyone have a fantastic day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening.